To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take up arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing, end them. Poetry has a way of sticking with people. You might not think of it like that, but you ever got a song stuck in your head? Same thing. If you've ever listened to a song in the car, you've appreciated poetry. If you've ever broken down a rap song, you have appreciated poetry. But for some reason, when we look at poetry, when I say that, right, already, right, the fear is probably tingling in your gut. We get trepidatious or hesitant to look at poetry because there's this real ostentatious pretension around poetry. People are like, you have to appreciate the poem for what it is and dig into it. No, stop. Like, poems are not written to be conquered. Okay, I can't tell you how many people treat literature this way. It's like, I read 8 books this week. Cool. You want to tell me about them? You don't remember anything about them? Awesome. See, just like, the speed readers who treat a book as some sort of enemy, people do the same thing with poetry. When a student gets assigned a poem to analyze, they're like, all right, just find the keywords. The author died on suicide. Oh, classic, right? That is how people read poetry. And really, that's not what it's meant to be, right? That's crazy, right? I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm going to let you in on something right now. Authors are not hobgoblins sitting in a cave going, only the most wise and learned of English students will be able to discover the secret meanings behind my book. Like, that's not what they're like. But like, authors generally aren't like that. Okay, that's not how they behave. They're not writing stuff to be deliberately confusing. Okay, mystery, good, confusion, bad. So when you read a poem, you have to understand they were made to be read and understood. They weren't meant to be read and ripped apart, okay? So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to take the time to do 3 big things with this poetry lesson. We're going to look at central idea. We're going to look how analysis helps you find the central idea. And we're going to look for references in the text to help you support that main idea. Okay. If I say main idea or central idea, it's kind of the same thing. I'm just using those terms interchangeably. Okay. You might even get a test question that says something like, is it the same thing? Okay. So main idea, central idea, same difference. Your Edgenuity lesson has you reading a poem by Emily Dickinson, which is a fantastic choice because her poems are very much out in the open. They're very much just there for you to read and taste and get a little taste. So we're going to practice, okay? But when we do this, I do not want you to analyze this poem. When we read this next thing, I don't want you to analyze it. Just read it, appreciate it, and go, okay, that was cool. All right, that's it. I don't want you to analyze it yet, okay? You have to promise me. No analyzing. Okay, let's go. This is called Those Winter Sundays by Robert Hayden. Sundays too, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then, with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather made banked fires blaze. No one ever thanked him. I'd wake and hear the cold splintering breaking. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress, bearing the chronic angers of that house, speaking indifferently to him, who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes as well. What did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices? So there it is. There's the poem. Did you analyze it? You better not have. Activity. Here we go. In one sentence, okay, identify the first thing about this poem that you kind of just got from it, okay? This doesn't need to be a deep reflection. Just be like, The poem's kind of about this thing. Very off the cuff. Just be like, it's kind of about this. That's all. Okay? Boom, go. Okay, cool. So the first thing that I see when I look at this poem is Sundays 2, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. It's the first line, right? Just like a book, you want your title or your first line to really establish a lot for your reader. So when I look at a poem, the first thing that I look at is the first line, right? That's the first thing you read. It should say something. Okay, so here we get that, right? My father got up early. We know that this poem's about his dad, and that's what sticks with me right off the bat. I'm just like, okay, cool. This is a poem about his dad. It's that easy. That's literally what you could have written, right? When you're like, what's the main idea? It's a poem about a guy's dad. Okay, it's that quick. Now, let's dig a little bit deeper, okay? Remember, I said that we're going to analyze this poem, okay? And analysis is breaking something down from a large idea to smaller portions. And by examining those smaller portions, we understand the larger concept better, okay? So that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna start at a very surface level examination by looking at each piece individually, and then we'll do a little bit of a deeper analysis by kind of combining those ideas and using some of our knowledge to help back up the claim of the central idea. What if you said it's a poem about a guy's dad? Okay, let's try to defend that with relevant details, okay? So the first thing here, Sundays 2, my father got up early and put his clothes on in the blue-black cold. Then with cracked hands that ached from labor in the weekday weather made banked fires blaze. Okay, so is this about him, right? Does this have relevant details? Kind of, right? We see here that he has cracked hands and he has labor in the weekday, so we know that he's employed. We know that he's handy and that he made a fire. And then here, no one ever thanked him. So he does all of this without thanks. That's a pretty big detail about him. Next, I'd wake and hear the cold splintering breaking. That's a complete idea there, okay? I'd wake and hear the cold splintering breaking. That's not about his dad, right? It's about the narrator, and he's waking up and hearing the rooms around him creak as they warm up. If you've ever been kind of around like a tree in the springtime that's been, it's been frozen, right? And you can hear it like cracking and creaking, or if you've ever been in a log cabin and you've heated it up, right? You would know this. When the rooms were warm, he'd call, and slowly I would rise and dress. So this is more about the narrator. So not a lot of relevant details here. Speaking indifferently to him who had driven out the cold and polished my good shoes. Okay, so now the dad has done something else. The dad polished his shoes. So now we know that the dad is thoughtful. What did I know of love's austere and lonely offices? Okay, now if you don't know what austere means, it basically means strict. Okay, I would encourage you that whenever you're doing work like this, always look at words that you're unsure of. Okay, so it means severe or strict in manner. There is no shame in looking up a word, especially a word that's a little bit more archaic, like austere. I might use austere in a sentence, but you definitely wouldn't. All right, not as a 7th grader. Okay, maybe you will now. But we know now that it means strict. Okay, when I read books, I sit next to my Amazon Echo so that I can ask it stuff, because I don't know everything, right? I can't know everything. So if I'm reading a book by like Dostoevsky and he's using some word, right, that was originally in Russian and then translated into English by somebody 5 times smarter than me, yeah, I need to know what that word means in the context. Oh, what? Okay, I know what that word means, but not there, right? And then I need to ask for help, right? And that's fine. So please do that. When you see words that you don't know, look them up. There's no shame in that. The only thing that's shameful is lying about knowing something when you don't. That's what's shameful, okay? So do we have enough details here to say that this is a poem about his dad? I would say yes, okay? Is that the real main idea though? Is that the central idea? Sure, kind of, but just like all things in literature, we can defend another reading here. If the first line is so important for establishing the tone of the piece and the central idea of the piece, we should also think about the last line, okay? What did I know? What did I know of love's strict and lonely offices? This isn't about the dad there, right? If it's the last line, why isn't it about the dad? Okay, so there must be something more there. There must be something more. You see how basic this is though? I haven't referred to any fancy poetry ideas. All I've done is read this as if they're normal sentences and just think about what's written there, okay? There's nothing here that's unattainable for you, okay? There's nothing here that you need special training for. Now, I am about to make a reference to the type of poem that this is and a specific couplet at the end of this that gives us a deeper understanding about what's going on here in this poem, okay? So from a very basic understanding, we know that it's about a father who does thankless work and a son who gets up every morning, even Sundays, which is a day of rest, and he wakes up to a warm fire and polished shoes. Okay, so we do have to think about the son in this here because the son is the narrator. Okay, so if you remember point of view, the point of view of this is it's first person, and the narrator or the speaker of the poem. Okay, the same person in this case. Okay, but the speaker of this poem is talking about his experience. At the end here, there are two lines. This is called a couplet. Now, what's special about a rhyming couplet, or a non-rhyming couplet in this case, at the end of a sonnet, which is the type of poem, this is a 14-line poem, all right? What's special about this is that a couplet at the end usually signifies some sort of turn in the tone of the story. It is literally called the turn or the volta, okay? This turn indicates a change in what's going on in the rest of the poem. So all of this is very much about the son's experience with the father, okay? And then here, what did I know? What did I know of love's austere and lowly offices? So now we're turning and we're thinking about interior expectation, interior knowledge, okay? Now it's about the speaker. And he's thinking, like in the past, what did I know of that, right? What did I know about my father's hard work? What did I know about his love and his passion? Okay, I didn't know anything about how strict and lonely that was. So now let's think about this central idea with the knowledge that he's reflecting on this loss of this loneliness. What in life might make you think about someone that you love in a very different way? What might make you reflect on their life and what you didn't know about it? You can pause the video and think about that. One thing you might think of, and you can, be like, oh, Mr. Orlando's a mind reader, is a funeral or a loss, right? That somebody may have passed away. That often causes you to reflect on somebody's life in a very different way. We don't know that the father, is dead in this story, but we know that the son is looking back at his father's life in a very different way. There are a few other things you might have said. You might have said that the son had a child himself. So now the son is looking back at his father's life and thinking, wow, he did all this for me. That's something very different than what I thought love was. Now I'm doing the thankless work, okay? So now I don't know how lonely love is. And that could also change his perspective. Or he could be approaching middle age and not have really found that love yet, okay? So there's a lot of different ways you can read this, but you do know that the son is facing something or learning about something that is causing him to reflect on his father's life. So the central idea isn't just a poem about a guy's dad, okay? We want an action in our central idea, okay? A central idea isn't like love. That's not a theme, okay? That's just a verb, all right? We want to have a more complete central idea, okay? A subject and then what that subject is doing, some claim about that subject. So we could say that the central idea of this poem is a son reflecting on his father's life, okay? Not just a poem about his dad, okay? That is kind of a central idea, but let's go a little bit more deep. Because we know at the end there that the son is reflecting what did I know of love's strict and lonely offices, we know that the son is thinking about his father in a different way, and that's something we have to respect when we're thinking about the central idea here. And there we have it. You just did it. You just analyzed a poem, breaking it down into smaller pieces, and then using those smaller pieces to build up your central idea by using those relevant details to support it. Okay, that's it. It didn't involve any, Greek history. It didn't involve any, dictionary searches for ancient metaphors. Okay, it did involve one dictionary search for a word that we were kind of unsure of, but that's fine. Okay, this wasn't work, right? It was just thinking through what's written there very naturally. So I hope that this helped you. I know that this video went very long, but to be fair, it was a full breakdown of a poem in 2 different ways. So you kind of can't, cut that short. I'd rather give you the whole thing, okay? So hopefully this gives you a better idea of what you're doing there, and I will see you next time for our next lesson, all right?